There was a time when technology felt different. Not smarter, not safer, not even more reliable, just stranger. Modern technology is clean, silent, hidden behind glass screens and smooth animations, but analog technology exposed everything. You could hear electricity inside of a television. You could hear interference in a radio signal. You could physically watch an image struggle to stay stable. And because of that, analog systems often felt alive, but sometimes they felt haunted. To understand why analog technology feels unsettling, you have to first understand how different it was. Modern devices process information digitally. Everything becomes binary, on or off, 1 or 0. But analog systems worked using continuous physical signals. Audio wasn't recreated digitally. It physically existed as electrical fluctuations. Television images weren't rendered by pixel in the way that modern displays work. A CRT fired beams of electrons across phosphor-coated glass thousands of times per second. That's why old TVs hummed. That high-pitched ringing noise some people remember hearing, that was often the flyback transformer operating at around 15 kilohertz. You weren't just using the machine, you were physically experiencing its electrical processes. The analog systems were imperfect. Signals drifted, images warped, audio crackled, tape degraded over time. Modern technology hides imperfections. Analog technology displayed them constantly. The human brain is extremely good at finding meaning in imperfections. Faces in static, voices in noise, movement in distortion. That's a part of why analog horror feels believable. Because of old technology already behaved unpredictably. One of the strangest weaknesses of analog technology was that broadcasts could be hijacked. Unlike modern encrypted systems, many analog broadcasts relied almost entirely on signal strength. If someone transmitted a stronger signal, they could potentially override the original broadcast. And in 1987, someone did exactly that. On November 22nd, viewers in Chicago suddenly lost their television signal. In its place appeared a bizarre figure wearing a rubber max headroom mask. The person swayed erratically in front of a moving metal background while distorted audio played. The interruption lasted around 90 seconds, and nobody officially knows who was responsible. If there's one thing that perfectly captures the eerie feeling of analog communication, it's number stations. For decades, strange radio broadcasts appeared on shortwave frequencies, monotone voices reading endless sequences of numbers. Sometimes there was music, sometimes mechanical tones, and even sometimes distorted synthesized speech. And nobody officially claimed responsibility. You may be asking, why did they exist? Well, most experts believe number stations were used by intelligence agencies. The reason is surprisingly clever. Shortwave radio can travel enormous distances by bouncing off the ionosphere. An agent anywhere in the world could receive the transmission using an ordinary radio. The message itself would be encrypted using a one-time pad. Without matching the pad, the message would appear completely meaningless, even if millions of people heard the broadcast. And the unsettling part? Most number stations are still active today. You can still tune into them. Cold War ghosts still transmitting across the atmosphere. As electrons spread into homes and offices, people began realizing something disturbing. Electronic devices leak information. Not intentionally, just physically. Governments discovered that monitors, keyboards, printers, and even cables emitted electromagnetic radiation while operating. With specialized equipment, those emissions could sometimes be captured and reconstructed, meaning someone could potentially recover information from a screen without physically touching the computer. CRT monitors were especially vulnerable because of how they generated images. The electron beam scanning process created measurable emissions. This research became part of classified Cold War surveillance programs. Entire rooms were shielded to prevent electronic leakage. The unsettling reality was simple. Even when disconnected from a network, machines could still betray information. Few sounds trigger anxiety faster than an emergency alert. An analog emergency system felt especially terrifying. There were no smooth animations, no modern interfaces, just sudden interruption. A loud tone, a black screen, and an emotionless voice. For many people, these alerts became psychologically associated with disaster. Analog alerts felt real because they interrupted reality itself. Your television wasn't asking for permission, it simply took over. Storm warnings, civil emergencies, missing children, military alerts. The abruptness created fear. And because analog systems degraded unpredictably, broadcasts sometimes sounded warped or distorted, which only made them more unsettling. Modern horror often relies on monsters. Analog horror relies on uncertainty, distortion, signal loss, corruption, and that works because analog media naturally contains imperfections. The human brain evolved to detect patterns, especially faces and voices. So when analog systems produce random noise, our brains sometimes interpret meaning when none exists. That's why static can feel alive. A slightly warped voice becomes threatening. A damaged VHS tape feels cursed. Analog horror exploits the fear that something is hiding inside the signal. And despite all of these creepy undertones and strange disturbances that appear, people remain obsessed with analog technology. CRT monitors, vinyl records, film cameras, cassette tapes, because analog technology is physical. It has texture, imperfections, a presence. Modern devices feel invisible, but analog devices constantly remind you that they are machines. You hear them spinning, clicking, whining and buzzing. And strangely enough, those flaws made them feel more human. The creepy side of analog technology was never really about ghosts. It was about uncertainty, invisible signals surrounding us, machines behaving unpredictably, voices appearing from nowhere. Analog systems exposed those hidden layers of technology, and once people realized those hidden layers existed, they started wondering what else may exist hiding in the noise around them. If you enjoy what I do, and you really like this video, please leave a comment and suggest some other topics you'd like me to discuss. I'm very much open to any ideas that you have, and I would love to hear more feedback on what I can improve on. If you fell asleep listening to this, then have a good night.